Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on the importance of eye contact. Eye contact is one of those nonverbal communications that is often neglected, underrated, and people's self-awareness of their eye contact and the impact it's having on people is often misjudged. So today in the 30 minutes, I'm going to give you some basic, some introductory skills and some high level use of eye contact. And I guess I'll ask you as you move forward to do a self-audit, get some feedback. What do people say about your eye contact? So Peter Dew's my name, public speaking trainer and coach. And as always, it's a pleasure to be of service to you today. Please type in questions as we go. Ask questions, take notes, think and apply. As I said, what are you going to do? What's your current level of eye contact? How are you perceived when you get before an audience? And ask questions, pass comments. My call to action for today is that eye contact matters. And what are you doing to ensure effective eye contact? And I always go back to Daniel Goldman, Emotional Intelligence. One of the key traits of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's really hard to move on to another emotional intelligent trait, which is self-regulation. So the ability to regulate some of your emotions. So finding out how your eye contact is perceived when you're running a meeting, when you're running a training, when you're in a difficult conversation, when things go pear-shaped, is really worthwhile and great to have in terms of self-regulating and being aware of what you're doing. My general rule, face-to-face and virtual, is my lips don't move unless I'm making eye contact with someone in the room. So here it's the camera. The camera's up there above my screen, and I do have some control, so occasionally I need to break eye contact just to move back a screen. But during that breaking of eye contact, I try not to speak. Face to face, we see the people that speak to the roof, speak out the window, speak to their feet, turn their back to you and write something on the flip chart, and they're talking as they go. And it just breaks the rapport and the connection. So that's my philosophy. It doesn't mean it's right. This is what we're going to cover: peripheral vision. So picking up what's happening in the periphery of the room. It's how we build trust and honesty. It overrides our gesture. So these hands, the nonverbal communication, eye contact is more powerful. 2-point versus 3-point. When to use them, what they are, when to use 2-point, when to go to a 3rd point. Credible versus approachable from an eye contact perspective, and the verticality, take your eyes up, take your eyes down, and it's how we keep our audience awake as well. So a lot to cover in 30 minutes. So I'm going to move quick and invite you, if you have any deeper questions, either during the webinar or if you're reviewing this later on, send me an email and I can expand on some of these responses. Peripheral vision. One of the most powerful public speaking presentation skills that we can have is the ability to juggle. You cannot juggle 3 balls without having really good peripheral vision. Peripheral vision is reading the whole room. So I'm having a conversation with you down the barrel, but I'm noticing someone over here shaking their head, rolling their eyes, playing on their iPhone. Peripheral vision picks up that I need to energize this person, need to involve this person, or if the whole room rolls their eyes, then obviously my message has been lost. There's objection, there's pushback, and I need to change tack. One of the mistakes speakers do is they say something, everyone stops breathing, and the speaker trainer just keeps bulldozing on. You've just lost your audience. Your peripheral vision is your indicator that you need to change pace. You need to step back, acknowledge the elephant in the room. Look, before I go on, I'd like to acknowledge not everyone's going to agree with me in this particular policy I'm now talking about, but let me take a step back, and we all agree that doing the same is no longer working, is no longer acceptable. Then when I get people breathing a few nods, all right, so I'm finding the common ground. Now I've got permission to go down my rabbit hole, my different position. Sometimes I have morning tea breaks, I have lunch tea breaks. They're scheduled, they're written up on the whiteboard, and I notice that people need a break sooner. So I will break to morning tea 5-10 minutes early because the energy level has gone. This is your peripheral vision. This is reading the room, attending to the room. How do you improve your peripheral vision? Learn how to juggle. Trust and honesty. Whether we like it or not, in Western culture, and I'm just going to take a step back, eye contact varies from culture to culture. So I do not have permission to make direct eye contact with the Noongar elders of Perth, Western Australia, southwest of West Australia. Other cultures, good eye contact is not normal, especially to elders. So I understand there are cultural nuances. But generally in Western society, it's one of the ways how we build trust. A shady character, someone who's not trustworthy, I call these people sometimes the used car salesman, who won't make eye contact with you as they're asking you to follow them, to trust them, to adopt their way of thinking. They've lost their audience a little bit. And it kind of goes like this. Yeah, look, trust me, I've got a good second-hand car. It's only had one user, good service record, and I wouldn't sell you a lemon. Yeah, trust me, it's a good car. As I don't make eye contact with the person I'm selling to. Eye contact's how we build trust. Some people say the windows of our soul. So not only is it peripheral vision, it's about building trust. That's a valuable skill to make. Even when you're in self-doubt and maybe you're struggling and you're at job interviews, if you can make eye contact with your audience, it just helps them build trust and rapport. Eye contact overrides gesture. Hard to demonstrate this in the virtual world, but what I normally do is I move to someone in the room in my audience and I lock eye contact with them. And I point up to the roof and say, look, I think there's a hole in the roof, but they keep looking at me. But I want them to look at the roof, but they're looking at me because my eye contact is more powerful than my gesture. So if I lock eye contact with you and I say, I think something's happening out there, and I want you to look at my gesture, you're not going to. So therefore, if I want people to follow my gesture, my eyes need to follow my gesture. I think there's a hole in the roof. Wow, there seems a whole lot of commotion out there at the moment. In fact, it's my 4-year-old granddaughter that I'll be babysitting straight after this webinar. If you want a mentor to follow this, watch the weather presenters, about 80% female weather presenters. There's a couple of guys, Graham Creed, and when they're talking, when they're delivering the weather, and there's a synoptic chart and there's a cyclone forming off the northwest of West Australia, their eyes follow as they point to the cyclone. Then they'll come back and they say Perth's fine and beautiful. And there's a deep trough forming off the southwest, and their eyes follow their gesture, because there's no point looking gun barrel straight at your audience and expecting them to follow your gesture. So just be aware. Your eye contact overrides, is stronger than your directional gestures. This gentleman on the left, he's pointing to a chart as he looks gun barrel at the people. They're making eye contact with him. They're probably not making much notice. The lady on my right is looking up at the question marks, the water can, and we will follow her eyes up to where her hand is, up to the watering can. 2-point versus 3-point communication. 2-point is when I look at you. So down the webcam, we're now making 2-point communication. 1-point's when you sort of inwardly think. So where do I see myself in 5 years? Yeah, look, hopefully retired, hopefully the COVID vaccine's working and I'm traveling a little bit more around the world. And it's just me. It's just me. The other 2-point is when you look with the person that I mentioned. Down the barrel at my audience, I'm having a conversation. This is 2-point. 3 points is when we go to a 3rd point, and it may be a report. So I'd like to talk to you about your project. It may be a whiteboard. So the weather presenter points to the synoptic chart. It may be to a PowerPoint slide that I can point to in a face-to-face presentation. So that's the difference between 2-point and 3-point. So a report, an attendance record, an absenteeism record, a productivity, a flip chart, a pathology report. When you go to a doctor, he's got an X-ray or X-ray or a pathology report. And when you look at that, that's the 3rd point. Now, here's the general rule. And this is where this comes up. You deliver good news, positive, 2-point. Thanks for coming. Really great job. We're going to make a great difference here. When you need to deliver some bad news, some negative news, then you tend to go to a 3rd point. So imagine the doctor, and this is your pathology report. So thanks for coming in today. And I've got your pathology results back. So what I want to talk to you today about is your pathology results. Now, if you look here, you can see your white cell count is quite raised, and it's the neutrophils which are raised. And this probably indicates that you have some sort of infection. Now, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to find the right antibiotics. I'm going to take some swabs, and we're going to take care of this infection. We're going to treat this infection so you get better and you're able to, is positive. This infection is negative. Thanks for coming in. I've got your X-ray results with you. Now, before I go on, just have a look here. If you have a look here, see that shadow there? That shadow indicates that you've got X. I'm going to work with you. I'm going to do my best, and we're going to beat this X. A report. The reports, thanks for the report. Love your report. Now, if you look here at page 111, so I'm going to go to 3-point now. Can you rewrite this section here? I just think it misses the point. I'd really love you to rewrite this section. Really good report. And thanks for completing it on time. And if you could just rewrite section 3. So what happens is, and this comes from Michael Grinder, nonverbal communication, what happens is 2-point preserves the relationship. 2-point allows you to keep breathing as I'm talking to you. If I give you negative information while maintaining 2-point, it's like you're the problem. You're the problem. Whereas in actual fact, you're not the problem. It's section 11 of the report that's the problem. It's the shadow on the X-ray. That's the problem. You're a good person. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm going to work with you. Let's fix this bad behavior. Let's fix this problem. Let's fix this absenteeism. Positive news, 2-point. Negative news, go visual to a 3rd point. You may have heard of the term walking counselling. A lot of people go, let's go out of the office, and they go for a walk, just a bit of a chat. And that's when they're both looking ahead. And that's when you can give some bad news or some negative news, take it out of the office and fresh air so they don't have to go back to their desk and, other staff members say, so what was that about? And you've got that time to breathe and the eye contact straight ahead as you deliver bad news. It's better if you can be specific So the X-ray is specific, the pathology is specific, but if you can't go visual, then the walk and talk is often a good way of doing it. I do a bit of work with the mining sector, and a lot of the managers give coaching and feedback when they're driving, and both looking straight ahead, and they can have some of those tough conversations. If you want to know more about this, just Google Michael Grinder, Grinder, and he's got lots of YouTube clips, 2-point, 3-point communication. Credible versus approachable. Now, this is a whole non-verbal list. I'm talking about eye contact today. So when you're approachable, that means you're really friendly and thanks for coming. I just want to have a chat to you. How was your weekend? At the start of a team meeting, at the start of a presentation, I'll try and be approachable, connect, build rapport, build trust with my audience. But then as I go into the content, and I've now got permission to teach you, to ask you to follow me, I've built trust. I need to become credible. If I'm still approachable, you know, nice and soft and friendly, as I'm teaching you some important safety lessons, then I'm not going to have impact. The eye contact, when you're credible, you blink less. When you're approachable, you blink a little bit more. The head bobbing, the voice changes, of course. Classic example, and you may have seen me demonstrate this before. Thanks everyone for coming today. We've had a really great time. Palms up, of course. I'm having a barbecue on the weekend, and I'd love to have around. I'd love to come around. A few sausages, a few, you know, beers and wines. No need to bring anything. Just come around and have fun. However, I don't tolerate drink driving.
Oh, no.
I don't tolerate drink driving. So if you are going to come, please organise an Uber. Please organise a skipper. I just don't tolerate drink driving. Now, if I stayed with my lovely approachable and said, you know, we'd love to have you for a barbecue, and by the way, I don't tolerate drink driving, by the way. I just don't like drink driving. I've lost my credibility. Julie Bishop, when she was Minister for Foreign Affairs, our main ambassador on the world stage, did a very good frozen eye. Look, gun barrel straight down the camera as she told some hard, true facts. Verticality of eye contact. So this is where, once again, I'm going to gesture high and maybe gesture low. So I'm just going to sit back a little bit. So if I gesture high and I look at my gesture, or I gesture low and I bring my eyes down, my audience looks up or looks down. When I take you up, and one way of taking you up is, of course, to go to the whiteboard and write a list of things, I'm taking you into your head. So you're starting to think, you're starting to analyze, you're starting to be in your headspace. When I bring your gesture down low towards my stomach, towards my gut, I'm bringing you into your feeling. Psychologists, counselors, social workers use this verticality of eye contact when they're debriefing, when they're counseling trauma victims. So just imagine if you were a bank staff and you had survived an armed holdup, and you're now in a debrief in a counseling session, one-on-one. And the counsellor says, so please describe what happened. Can you please just describe what happened? Let me know. You take them back into their gut, and they're going to re-describe their trauma. They're going to go back to their feelings, their emotions. Their eyes are going to go down as you gesture down. What if I stand up and say, okay, can you describe what happened when the armed robber walked in? All right, he said this, and you write it down. They're now just thinking and recalling it matter-of-factly what happened in the armed holdup. So they're in their head. because you've taken their eyes high. Now you might say, right, okay, what the bank is proposing, they're going to put shields in front of you, bulletproof shields. They're going to put an emergency safety button. People are going to be screened on the way in. If we do all those processes to make your work really safe, how would that make you feel? So just remember, by taking people up into their head with your verticality of your eye contact, taking their eyes up, stand up, go to a flip chart to a whiteboard, people are starting to think. If you gesture low, you take them into a feeling. So one of the things I talk about is when my boss and my manager said, you'll never be a senior scientist, you'll never be a lab manager because of your stutter. Just imagine, I go to my audience, just imagine how that made me feel. And you can see the audience change as I take them to now feel my experience, my trauma of being rejected at job interview, being told I was useless, being told that my stutter would mean that I'd never be a lab manager or a senior scientist. Really powerful skill. As I said, there's some simple stuff here. I generally don't speak unless I'm looking at someone. Peripheral vision's how I read the room. We build trust with our eye contact. But this is a high level verticality. This is a high level skill. So when you go up, they're thinking, they're analysing, they're considering. So imagine if we did this, if we did this, if we did that. What would that feel like? What would that feel like? Now we want to take them into the gut. Because as speakers, as trainers, remember, people don't remember much of what we have told them. They remember how we made them feel. So in my training workshops, helping people overcome fear of public speaking, if I help people move out of my workshop with the feeling they've got this, they can see light at the end of the tunnel. They understand that they can do this. They now know the way forward. They can't remember my 5-step process. Then I've had impact. I've shifted that person's behavior. They'll have my workbook. They'll have my PowerPoint slides. They'll be able to email me if they get stuck on some of the, how do you write a speech? How do you prepare a speech? But in their gut, they've got this feeling, this experience, this emotion. Wow, I can do public speaking. I can now do that leadership role. I can now be a manager on the mine site because, yeah, it still scares me, but I now know in my gut that it's okay. So that's the verticality of eye contact. Keep your audience awake. Another advanced skill and harder to do in terms of online presentation, but I can stop share. I can stop share. And so with the stop share, you're now looking at me. There's no PowerPoint slide. People fall asleep when they're driving, fatigue, when they're driving in straight roads. Think of Port Hedland to Broome, 600 kilometres of straight road. People don't fall asleep when they're doing S-bends, figure eights, hairpin bends, because their eyes are moving in the socket. So when you do Death by PowerPoint, as I basically have via Zoom, when you do Death by PowerPoint, people are driving in a straight road and they will fall asleep. They will zone out. So I'm going to share again. So my role is to keep your eyes moving or keep you involved one way or the other. And by going to a flip chart, by standing up, by moving to a different position, you're going one way or the other. Me standing to one side, PowerPoint in the middle, flip chart on the other, I'm taking you around S-bends, around figure eights. Keep your eyes, your audience's eyes moving in their sockets and you will keep them engaged. So that's another way of using your eye contact, the way you involve the audience and using their eye contact to move to different spots. And when you move to a flip chart off to the side, settle 2 or 3 minutes, do some flip charting. And then maybe you stop share or you black your PowerPoint slide and you now move into the middle of the room. Their eyes have now moved. Talk to them for 2 or 3 minutes there. Then maybe you need to bring your PowerPoint slide, you share it again, you move to the other side of the room, their eyes follow you, bring up your PowerPoint slide, now they've moved back. So moving the eyes keeps people from driving from Broome to Port Hedland or Port Hedland to Broome, 600 kilometres of dead straight road. That's when people fall asleep. Doing a PowerPoint presentation for 1 hour without stopping sharing, without blacking the slide, without going to another media, without asking people to turn to the person next to you. That's in a face-to-face workshop, but I can put you into breakout rooms. And then people are now having chats, 2-point, and I've just turned your eyes from looking at me to looking at each other. You've just gone around an S-bend. There's some tips for eye contact, for how to use your eyes, which is part of your nonverbal communication when you're presenting. Peripheral vision reads the room, trust, honesty. I don't speak unless I'm looking at someone. Overrides gestures. I want you to look up there. I need to look up there myself. 2-point, 3-point, 2-point positive. Thanks for coming. I just want to share some results with you. 3rd point is the negative. I noticed you've been away from work 5 days in the last 2 weeks, which is a little bit unusual for you. Is there something that I can do to help you address that issue? Credible versus approachable, a little bit of frozen eye. Don't forget the other verbals, the flattening of the voice, the less bobbing of the head if you want to be credible. When you gesture up, take people's eyes. When you stand up, go to a flip chart. People start thinking. When you gesture low and you bring people's eyes down, they go into their body, start to feel their emotions. And don't just do death by PowerPoint, 600 kilometers of straight road. What's coming up? January's webinars. Am I organized or what? Late January, of course, because I'm going to have a break. 5 principles that underpin effective public speaking, how to get in the habit of public speaking. So one of the principles, and these are kind of my next 5 webinars, one of the principles is get in the habit of public speaking. If you want to be good at public speaking, get in the habit. And there's 4 other principles that you need to start to adopt. People say, how do I get in the habit of being a regular public speaker? And that's what the 29th of January's webinar is about. Got some workshops coming up. I'm doing an online workshop in January. Winning presentation skills. It's a 1-day workshop. I don't think I can do 1 day online. I don't think you could tolerate 1 day online. So I'm doing 2 3-hour sessions 1 week apart, Monday the 18th, Monday the 25th. This means you can also try out and do some of the work in between the week and come back on week 2 and report back, and I can do some coaching with you as we go. Bunbury, Women in Leadership, Port Hedland, Perth, lots of stuff coming up next year. Please share that with other people. You know how to reach me. I always love your feedback. And if I can help you in any other way around eye contact, if you can't find the YouTube clips of Michael Grinder and that interests you, that 2-point, 3-point communication, do let me know. So my question to you is, what are you going to do around your eye contact? Grow that emotional awareness and then self-regulate. A couple of questions, well worth it, 30 minutes. I know I have a meeting. I'll see you later. Merry Christmas and goodbye to everyone. Bye for now.